Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fetch Quest podcast where we talk about video games and more. I'm your host Guy, joined by my fellow co-host Brewer
Hello.
and Connor.
Hello. Hey, before we get started, just quickly off script, Brewer, can I get your copy of God of War Ragnarok? I buy it myself, but it's like fully priced on digital right now.
Oh, sure, no problem. Why don't you just buy a physical, though?
Oh, Brewer, did you not hear? Sony's destroying them all, so you have to buy them all digital, including your copy, Brewer.
What? There's no way they could. No!
Oh my god, wait, they actually blew up Brewer's copy. But Brewer, you okay? What the hell?
No!
Oh my god, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Alright, well, I guess for Brewer's sake, we need to talk about this, especially if they have bombs on our disc. Oh my god.
Avenge me, brothers!
You're still alive though.
Physically, yes. Mentally, no.
You mean physically no, because they're taking away physical disc, baby.
Good point. I'm just dead.
Yeah.
I'm a ghost.
That kind of leads us into today's topic today. Sony, we're making another Sony We Hate You video. This one, we're doing about, specifically, a lot of the recent decisions that they have made targeting physical media. Oh boy, howdy, how we have opinions on this, and they are not positive.
I agree.
I hate Sony so much right now. I mean, it's not like that's an uncommon thing for me, but especially right now, because I have so many physical games.
Dude, it's...
Yeah,
man.
I've seen your collection in real life, and it's pretty good.
So,
Thank you, Connor.
for context, for people who don't know, Sony has recently made the ultimate decision that in 2028 they will be discontinuing all physical releases for their consoles and games. What does this mean? Well, it means that they will no longer manufacture any physical disc. Any future PlayStation consoles will not have a disc drive, meaning that any games that you have on them must be digital only. This wouldn't be so bad, however, Sony has really bad policies that go against digital media to where you can just straight up lose your digital copies of your games if you aren't active. There are laws in place to state that you don't own the games, and having no access to your physical games limits a lot of things, such as accessibility for multiple people, resale value, getting refunds, the preservation of art. I can go on. There are a lot of issues, and I'm going to be honest, there are many cons to this, not a lot of pros besides saving on money because of the disc.
I was going to say, the worst thing about this decision, it also comes in tow with decisions that actively makes digital worse as well, because they also announced the closure of the PS3 and Vita stores, so a lot of those games, which they just outright kind of stated, they're refusing to port all of them to the PlayStation store, even though they could like literally run on there easily for the most part. They're taking the store down. And then in addition to that, like I think just a couple weeks before this as well, they were under fire because they removed a bunch of digital movies from people's accounts. Because like, yes, on PlayStation, you could purchase movies and watch it from there. It's not exactly common, but it's something you could do. And even though people purchase these movies, they just went and removed them from their accounts, so they don't have access to them anymore. Which now that's the threat we're seeing with a digital-only future. If they can do it for that, they can also do it for your games as well.
Yeah, so obviously a PlayStation is going to be primarily used for gaming. I mean, duh, it's called a PlayStation. But this also is a really big item in terms of like streaming services now. You can download apps such as Netflix, Hulu, etc. on there. And also because the PlayStation 5 uses a Blu-ray disc reader, you can watch DVDs and Blu-rays using this thing. It doubles as a Blu-ray player, which underrated aspect of it. But
yeah,
the thing
I mean,
is,
hell, part of the reason the PS2 was so popular was because of physical media and especially watching DVDs.
Like, that's one of the coolest things about it. Like, yeah, sure, of course I'm going to be using it for gaming, but the thing is, I have a collection of movies, because I'm a real big film buff. I have a collection of movies, I don't have a Blu-ray player, I just use the PS5, because that is, like, an alternate use for it.
I was also gonna say, this decision is incredibly, like, it's stupid on every front, but it really is interesting to me that now they're being known for killing, discs and stuff like that, when in the past that the reason they were able to sort of make a staple for themselves or make a name for themselves is because they created like discs for video games. That's what set them apart from Nintendo. That's what set them apart from Nintendo and other like game companies at the time.
That is really true. To give an example, I am a Final Fantasy VII shill, of course. One of the biggest reason why Enix at the time transferred to PlayStation instead of remaining on Nintendo systems is because of the limitations of the N64 and it not using a disc. Because the PlayStation used the disc, that's the primary reason as to why they moved on to that. Like Connor said, like that is a ginormous thing for gaming. It's just the idea of transferring something from like these little cartridges to actually something that matches other physical media of the time that's growing was ginormous. And
I was also going to say, besides the actual format of the cartridges and discs, because that is highly debated, and like cartridges are kind of an issue for Nintendo right now as well because they're on a handheld. But I will say, besides the type of medium itself, just having physical media in general, like, has been important for them. Because, like, when Xbox made the announcement, I think at, like, E3, that was like, oh, yeah, even with a physical copy, you aren't going to be able to share with your friends. PlayStation had a very famous ad where they basically mocked that by showing a tutorial on how to let your friend borrow your game. Sort of like Connor was talking about with my God of War copy earlier. Just handing that to them. But with no physical media, they don't want you to do that because there's not anything on the PlayStation Store's front that's like a Steam library or anything like that.
Yeah.
No family sharing,
Yeah. And it's also just like the reason, for example, that I think a lot of people are okay with, Steam being a digital only sort of thing is because of just the sheer amount of games available on it. Like almost every game available is on Steam. But now with PlayStation removing discs and also going back to making things a lot more physical or a lot more exclusive, like for example Marvel Tokon, which the situation surrounding that right now is also insanely controversial. Wolverine being an exclusive, all of these things is it's going to end up hurting them in the long run, because now unless they come up with some like game sharing feature like Nintendo has, and I highly doubt Sony of all companies is going to do that, then you're trapping a lot of these games onto this system. Because what happens in like 10 years when the PS7 comes out and the PS5 is seen as, like something you shouldn't a game that you shouldn't or like a system you shouldn't own. Is Wolverine gonna get ported to the PS7? Is Wolverine gonna be like put into like a like some kind of like old catalog or something, or is it just going to be left to die on the PS5?
No, that's something to seriously consider, because the idea of a game getting delisted digitally is super terrifying for people. Even if the game, like, obviously there are reasons for it, like for funding reasons, or maybe it goes offline because like there aren't enough active players and it's making like a net negative on the money scale. But the thing is, in terms of people trying to play these games, that is incredibly scary. That is something that can be prevented
also like
through.
I was gonna say, that's more of a problem when you're regarding like live service games, because their whole thing is based off of like, the more players we have, the more money we're making. So that makes more sense for live service games who have sort of died out. But like for single player games that you can always go back to and always replay, and doesn't really depend on you having like a huge active player base, the fact that you would just never be able to re-experience a single player game is incredibly scary. Because imagine for example, if you played Final Fantasy VII digital only, and then like if this was a thing during the PS1, PS2 era, you played Final Fantasy VII and it was only digital, and then the PS3 comes out and you can never play Final Fantasy VII again.
I'd say another aspect to look at this from is also from a much wider argument for stop killing games, like that movement that's also like gone to court and stuff to try and have games properly preserved, because like the thing we were talking about with live service games, there's been a lot of debate and arguments, which I very much agree with in court, that when these games go offline, you should still be able to play them some way. Like obviously they don't need to keep fully supporting it with like full servers and stuff, but there has to be some way for the player to still be able to access and play the game that they've sank a lot of time and money into. Like, you know, when Overwatch got shut down for Overwatch 2, where'd all your money go for like the physical copy of the game of you bought, and also for like all the digital purchases because of the freaking loot boxes that were so obnoxious in that game?
Yeah, or also like, it's also scary to me from an aspect of like, this really like sort of confirms this idea in my head that like, and it's a lot more apparent now, is that the current like governmental bodies at large, just the general industry, even the video game industry, don't see these games as art forms. That's the big thing, is that everyone will always talk about, you know, preserving films, preserving books, preserving art, like, you know, painted art and like stuff like that. But that conversation hasn't been, you know, really brought up that much for video games, because a lot of the people in the government and also in the industry, like, you know, big CEOs and stuff like that, the people who only care about making money, see it as a product. They don't see it as an art form. And that's why, personally, for me, this is also so scary, is because you are potentially completely erasing a piece of art from history. You're erasing things that people put their blood, sweat, and tears into, and it's just gone because you don't see this as a piece of work or a piece of art. You see it as just something to print you more money.
Yeah, I'd say even besides, like, even if they aren't looking at it as art, which I do feel like they should, but even if they aren't looking at it, it's more so, I think, in a way they want to control the product they're giving to the consumer, and also like never letting you have full control over it, because it's unfortunately just a very common trend, not just for gaming, but for like everything as well, like software as well for the computer. Like if I wanted to use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, in the past, a lot of times I could just like straight up buy the applications, own them, and use them. But for the most modern versions, they want some crappy subscription, and you have to keep paying the money. And that's kind of what I feel like we're going to be seeing with, like, who knows, the friggin' PS6 and possibly 2028 with Sony's announcement. They don't want you to own anything. They want you to probably pay a subscription, have their games, or also pay it and they can just remove it at any time when like a new version is out. Because
Exactly.
I will say also, you guys know how there was a lot of debates about, like, let's say the Resident Evil remakes, about the originals still not being available.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know they got added now, but that's just because a lot of fans were like really vocal about it. Because I feel like the way a lot of the companies see it as well is like the newer versions of their products, like games, and also let's say remakes, are the versions they want you to play. They don't want you to experience a lot of these older, in their eyes, sometimes worse versions. It has to be like their way of doing things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, we're not saying that remakes don't ever improve on things from the originals. There are definitely remakes that do that, but essentially, I don't want to speak for Brewer, but the point I think you're trying to make, Brewer, is that
you shouldn't erase both of them or like one of them.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You should have both of them, because the original versions of these games, like Resident Evil 2 original or Resident Evil 4 original, whatever, still have artistic merit and artistic things about them that are still very valid to like just play and analyze. For example, I mean, I mean, even then, there are sometimes remakes that do it worse. I know, I haven't played either of them, but Guy, maybe you can speak for me more on this, is that Resident Evil 3 Remake has been said it's a worse version of the original, and that the original is better.
Yeah, no, that is just something that I think needs to be stated, is that there are differences between remakes and the original. Resident Evil 3 is a good example because people almost universally say that the original Resident Evil 2 is not as good as the remake of 2, but then vice versa for 3. But that's the thing. The idea of a remake being established, because it is a remake of a previous game, it has to coexist and be thought about in context with the original. And people aren't able to properly think about that context if they don't have access to it. And the idea of an all-digital, like, this goes full circle into the idea that if we were to go all digital, we wouldn't be able to have this discussion. We wouldn't be able to have the intertextuality between the two pieces of media. Like, the thing is, yeah, I have heard that Resident Evil 3 remake is way worse than the original. I've heard it, and you know what? I've heard some arguments, and I could agree. Problem is, though, I've never played it. I've never played the original. And the thing is, if that game gets taken off digital stores or delisted because we've gone into this all-digital format, I'm screwed. Like, I just can't do anything about that. I'd have to rely on, like, alternative means, and that's just not user-friendly at all.
Well, I'd say some of those alternative means as well, especially like for some physical games, has been like, oh man, I want to go play Silent Hill 2 for the PS2.
Oh god.
I wonder how expensive it is, hundreds of dollars.
That's the other thing too, is that if by going into this entirely digital format, is that it's going to do is help these sort of scalping prices, because now if the physical versions for these things don't exist at all, and something like, you know, like for example, like a game
God of War Ragnarok here, God of War, I think I know where you're leading. I think essentially what you're trying to say is, if let's say God of War Ragnarok, because I did look this up while you were talking, God of War Ragnarok digital right now is $70 still. But physically, like at GameStop and stuff, I can find it for like around $35, Amazon for like $40, and some other sellers, like if I go on eBay for like offhand sellers as well, just like $30 or even less, maybe, depending on who's selling it. If those physical copies aren't available, they're just going to keep the prices as high as they want. And the thing that sucks about this as well, with Sony especially, is they have implemented like variable pricing. Like, the price you see on the PlayStation Digital Store may be different to someone else, just for whatever reason Sony has.
Because it's Sony.
But it's also the thing of, like, if these physical discs go out of production, they stop making these physical discs, then the only way you can get a physical disc is through scalping, or, like, hoping a friend has it.
Yeah.
See, that's the beauty. You first.
I was gonna say one thing is this is an interesting part I've seen of this conversation is possibly, and this is a kind of a bleak future, but a future some people thought of, like, you guys know companies like Limited Run Games and Super Rare Games, all those.
Yeah.
They usually make copies of physical copies of games that like don't have the production means to do so.
Oh, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, so some people are thinking, like, if you want a physical, it may start leaning into more of a just premium collector's item. Or, unfortunately, again, I think part of it as well is that even the collector premium option may not be a thing, because a lot of the proprietary media that's needed, like Sony's producing the disc, Nintendo produces their cartridges. I don't really know what Xbox does, because Lord knows they are doing just kind of whatever right now. But either way, you usually need to go to the console manufacturer to get those printed, even through like limited run or super rare games. So for the PS6, again, that's just gonna kind of be dead. Or also, like, if they don't offer a disc drive attachment or anything like that, yeah, it's just a completely digital console with no options for physical at all, even if some people try to go out of their way to make it.
Yeah, and I think by far the scariest, like I've been using that term a lot, but what I think is by far the thing I am the most worried about is that by making these games digital only and basically making them only available through one source, being digital, all it does is allow for Sony to essentially grab, for excuse the crude language, but they get you by the balls, because there is nothing you can do. If they don't like that a game is on their store, they can take it off, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's digital. If you do something in a game that Sony doesn't like, they can take away the fact that you have that game, and there is no other option for you besides digital, and so you will just completely no longer have access to it. They get complete monetary and overall control of just you, the consumer, by doing this, and it is incredibly blatant that the only reason they're doing this is for pricing. Because I've seen that, I was talking about this with a friend when it first happened, and they were like, well, maybe this means that the price for games will go down because now you're no longer having to, pay for production costs of discs. And I don't think that's going to be the case, because all of this is just a way for them to continue having this huge amount of control over the consumer. Because the games I guarantee you, the games aren't going to be cheaper. I guarantee you the games are going to stay the exact same price for some BS reason, even though realistically the prices should go down because they aren't having to pay for all the production prices of making these, thousands upon thousands of discs.
I was gonna say, I think a lot of this is proven more so by the fact as well, like Nintendo, the ones that are still making physical games, like right now for a lot of their game releases, because there has been that argument for a while, digital should be cheaper than physical, but a large reason they've always been the same is because stores like GameStop, that are like Target, Walmart, all the ones that would sell those games, would just drop them because they'd have to compete with the digital stores. But because of the way, I guess, how the leverage has changed in these past couple of years, now like Splatoon Raiders, that's coming out pretty soon, and that game is $60 physical, but the digital price is $10 cheaper, and that's how a lot of people think it should be. And honestly, I'd say it's a good move because also the production cost of those cartridges are pretty pricey. So like if they wanted to say, oh, it's more pricier, I feel like Sony could have done that as well. It's like, okay, you want the disc version of the game, then this one's 60, this one's 50 for the digital. But no, even like completely digital games like Grand Theft Auto 6, not only did they up it to $80, and in my opinion $100 if you actually want to play the game with the shops and stuff, it's more expensive. It's crazy.
Yeah, no,
and
that's you brought up a good point.
You go first,
Connor. Yeah, sorry. You brought up a really good point. Because they are making it all digital, the demand for these games will actually increase. You wouldn't think so because there is no, there's no physical product. Oh wow, then that means the demand must be at its lowest. No, actually, because people are still, this is something that a lot of people do forget. A lot of people still don't buy digital games just because they can get it cheaper from somewhere else. GameStop with your pro membership, or Walmart with savings and whatnot. There are alternatives to get physical that make it cheaper, and because of the restriction of this digital only market not having a price difference, that will actually increase the demand for cheaper games. Because, like we said before, with Sony controlling the prices of all these new games that you can get, that means that the demand for when these games go on cheaper or go for sale, it's going to increase by a lot. So in actuality, people are just gonna have to spend more money in the long run. It's really fucky. I'd say one part of that as well, for some of the demand, I feel like for like more of the like hardcore gamers, like I say us, and like more to people that actually play a large variety of games, a lot of us will probably be dropping this in some ways, or like
not buying into this all digital future. But I think the thing Sony's probably betting on, and that a lot of these companies bet on, is just like the casual consumer, the gun and ball gamers, the people that are just gonna play GTA, Call of Duty, and then like Madden, EA Sports, just whatever sport game they want.
Yeah, because that is something that I have been seeing. Like, not a lot of people have been saying it, but there has been this sort of thing of like, well, I don't play physical games anyway, so why does this matter? And most of those opinions are coming from the people who are like
dick riders.
Well, that, and also people who just play like the new COD, the new Madden, the new FIFA, the new NBA games, whatever, the gun and ball gamers who are completely casual. And I think that's the problem, and that's what they're banking on, because that is a large majority of their audience. Like, to deny that that is a large majority of Sony's audience would be wrong, but it's the fact that they are only banking on this, because again, you have to remember, PlayStation is a very, like, they do have a lot of games on their storefronts when it comes to like older games and newer games. Like, that is a reason I originally bought a PS5, is because they had such a large amount of games on their store that I wanted to play. But by essentially banking only on this incredibly casual audience, you're gonna be pushing away people who would buy other games and stuff like that, and it's just incredibly like slimy.
Yeah, it's slimy and just pure greedy, because again, that's what this decision was made for, is just greed. Because this is Sony we're talking about. They have the means to do these discs, and also, like I said, Nintendo, their competitor, arguably has to like pay more for their cartridges as well.
Well, it's also just the fact that like Sony is always been a very greed centric, at least recently especially, has been very focused on money and greed. And that is what I don't want to come off as like a Nintendo dick rider, but at least when I think of Nintendo, my mind doesn't immediately go to greed. It just goes to bad business sense. But Sony is just pure, unadulterated greed. Like, the pure manifestation of greed, in my opinion. Because anyone with a brain sees this and knows it is only for money. It's so they can save money on disc productions by not having to make them anymore. It's to and yet still charge the same price for the games. It's so they can have complete monetary control over the games that they'd be putting out, instead of being able to, you know, go to, like, as you guys were saying, like, go to a GameStop or something and buy it for cheaper. It's complete and utter, like, just need for money.
What gets me too is that they're screwing over so many developers. You guys have no idea how hard it is for like a first-time indie studio to get their physical release without like a proper publisher. Like, hell, even like, let's say for example today, Supergiant Games, they just released Hades 2, Game of the Year contender, great game. The physical release of it is so much more expensive than the digital version, because they need a way to basically excuse its existence. Yeah, they need to confiscate for it, basically, which sucks, because like it is like $20 more expensive. It's something huge. But the thing is, they wanted to do that to make it more accessible for their audience, so that more people can play the game. A lot of developers, even the gun and ball games, do rely a lot on physical release. That is something that is still a lot of people get at their GameStops. They're just screwing over developers. They are putting kind of a monopoly on the price tag of these games without the proper determination of these devs, and it's really messy. I don't know the full process of like how exactly a price is determined for a video game. That's something that's out of my realm of knowledge. But based off like the knowledge that I'm gaining from like understanding about this whole like physical digital to all digital switch is that Sony basically kind of gets a final say on the price for their games, or at least the games that they get to put on their consoles. And if that's the case, that's really messed up.
Yeah, well, I say the more messed up thing with Sony is I don't know if they necessarily have final price say, but again, they do have that thing I mentioned with like variable pricing to like change the price of the game. So like even if a developer was like, let's put the game on sale for $10 and maybe like 15 for someone else, just depending on your region or something, just because of their scummy practices.
Yeah,
but one other thing
yeah.
I do want to bring up real quick, because you mentioned Hades 2, is that I always see it with like a lot of indie teams that do put out physical versions and whatnot, that they're usually always the ones that try to do best by their consumers. Like Hades 2, like on Switch 2 as well, because there is also contention between like game key cards. Hades 2 is completely physical. Like, yes, it's a little pricier, but that's because they need to actually make a profit off the game. But they know people do want a proper physical, not just a game key card. And then even for like looking at the other consoles as well, though, they actually do everything they can to make it a great purchase for the consumer. And like actually just get it out there, you know?
Yeah. And it's also like, I think it's a terribly bad decision on every front, because I truly see no positive in this scenario. Because one thing this also gets rid of is the ability to just share games with your friends. Because some of my best memories when it comes to gaming is us like trading games and stuff, and being able to talk to you about it. Because like, for example, a while ago, Brewer lended me AI the Somnium files for so I could play it, and then I beat it and I was like, wow, this was so good, I can't wait to talk to Brewer about it. And like, that would never happen if Brewer had not had the ability to lend me that copy of the game, and I had just waited for it to potentially go on sale or something. Like, that never would have happened. And by doing this, you're removing that ability as well. And I think that is just like something that is like, you're sacrificing like potential memories for kids and stuff like that, of like bonding experiences with their friends, just so you can line your pockets more.
I would also argue, in addition to what you said with that, it's also going to hurt you in the long term, because hear me out on this. Like, so for the Somnium files, in the case that I didn't lend you it, and we're going to remove the equation from the fact that Somnium files is usually like fucking $4 on like most platforms. Just forget about that part for a moment. But like, for a hypothetical, like if I don't lend you the game, that doesn't mean like, oh man, I'm just gonna go and immediately buy it on digital, I guess, then, if there's no physical available. In some of those cases, you may just not play the game, and then when they inevitably have like a new game come out, like for Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative or No Sleep for Konami Date, it's like, oh man, those look neat, but I didn't play the original, I don't have an attachment to the series, I'm not gonna buy it. Because, you know what, maybe if you were a fan from before, when I lended you a copy, you would have been there for day one, because I know damn well I'm not sharing my new copy of the game with you when I haven't played it yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like for example, like a series that I would say I'm a bit of a day one for would be like probably Rhythm Heaven and stuff like that. But right now, like, I day one bought Rhythm Heaven Groove, but I never would have been able to experience that if Brewer had not shared his 3DS with me and allowed me to play Megamix a few years ago.
Yeah, that I was also gonna say, if you wanted to play Groove, you may not have bought it day one as well to help with the sales, because God knows I am not lending you my Groove copy for a hot minute.
Exactly, and it's like, like by removing this ability to go physical and by like essentially bottlenecking prices for games is that you're losing audiences, because I know damn well, again, I said this earlier, but I know damn well that Sony isn't going to be lowering like prices for games. And I know like there are so many times where I'm like, wow, I'd really like to buy this game, but it's $70. I can't really just spend $70 off rip like that. But it's like, oh, my friend though, he just was like a big fan, and so it's like, oh, maybe he could share me this physical copy or something like that. Like, that's just not going to be a thing anymore.
Nah, bro. If you want to share the game, you gotta share the console, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah,
it's like,
no.
oh, well,
Wait like a decade, and there's like you need Face ID scan or some shit like that.
No, you need the chips in your
Yeah.
forearms to like play your game. If you want to scan into your PlayStation 8, you need to like put your forearm up to like the scanner, and then like once it recognizes your DNA, that's when you're finally able to play the new God of War.
you need
game.
to give
Finally.
a blood sacrifice to big Sony in order to play your PlayStation 8.
Yeah. In all honesty, like I know we're half joking with some of these suggestions, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that in the future, because there's not enough being done to actually deal with those types of issues with privacy. Because like Connor, you mentioned like politics and stuff earlier and how that's affecting the gaming ecosystem. Besides stuff like the Stop Killing Games movement not having a successful appeal recently, I know as well, like in a lot of countries, there's like they want ID verification for shit like Discord and all that. Eventually, they may try to start targeting consoles as well, or even like on fucking Steam for like what games you play.
I mean, I can see it, man. It's like, oh, this person's trying to play a rated team game. Well, a face scan, so we can see if you really are 18.
Yeah, that or give your government ID so they can have all the information on you, that they're definitely not going to just go and sell it to some other people, or they're not going to get hacked in like a week and have your like social exposed or something.
You'll install your PlayStation Neuralink to make sure you can actually properly play the game. That's where it's all
Yeah,
going
it's,
to go.
it's just that bleak future where like you're constantly being watched, you don't own anything, and everything is just worse.
That is
Exactly.
That is something we touched on, but there are some things I do want to cover. Speaking of owning games digitally, a lot of people don't know this, but this was one of the recent changes that they've actually made to their digital games. If you are not active on your PlayStation account for 30 days after purchasing a video game, they have the full right to take it away from you. You don't own the copy anymore, meaning you do have to buy it again. Not only that, but very recently, someone looked through a contract with Sony that you were required to sign that none of us read when we do this kind of stuff. And one of them states that if you are not active on your PlayStation account for up to 3 years, they have the full right to deactivate your account, meaning you lose everything. And someone made a joke today when I revealed this to someone saying, don't get in a 3-year coma, because they will take everything away from you.
I was about to say another problem too is they've had like one good exclusive every couple of 3 years maybe that I've cared about. So like if I don't activate my PlayStation, like damn, I'm fucked.
Exactly.
The last exclusive I've cared about was Astrobot.
I mean, exactly. It's like,
So like I got one more year to sign into my PlayStation, I guess.
Damn,
And
that's
it's like-
crazy.
as much as I hate to say it, it's like they are literally like playing into the meme. It's like now PlayStation has like no games, at least no physical ones. Like you
Yeah, true.
can't, you just can't like do that anymore. It's insane.
No disc, no games, but probably for the PS6, a $1,000 console.
Exactly. It's like everything is very bleak, and that is very unfortunate. Because
Yeah,
I think I can speak for all of us when I say that the reason that we have been going on a 40-minute rant about this is because we are very passionate about this stuff, and to see something that, in my opinion, once used to be a art form that was celebrated and, you know, was something that was incredibly like wonderful, like I think of like all the games of the past that like have inspired me, like Mario Galaxy, Shadow of the Colossus, all of these very early games, and how games were seen as like potential up and coming art form, and how it was like almost infested by greedy CEOs and higher ups of companies, and now it's become nothing more than a product that's just getting more and more expensive. This was a hobby that was meant to be more, video games were meant to be a more cheap hobby to just relax and chill with, and like just play games that changed you in a way, whether that be like having a fun time or by giving you a story that like fundamentally changed the way you think, like Xenoblade or Final Fantasy VII or games like that. But now all it's become is just a way for someone to line their pockets and just get more and more expensive. There is no world, in my opinion, where GTA 6 should be $100 basically, just because like that is insane.
No, I agree.
That is, I know we didn't say that, but I think that is probably my closing thoughts. And you know, I just think this entire situation is both stupid, greedy, and insanely bleak.
No, that's a fair assessment. It is something that we can't control. We can only predict and just see how it goes from here. But it is just a matter of fact that the opportunities or the futures that we can possibly see from this are just, I don't see a lot of positive out of this, I'll be honest. Brewer, if you would like to go with your closing thoughts next, I shall allow you, unless you want me to.
I'm just gonna say, like, a lot of what we've been repeating before. It's bleak, it's greedy, and just it all around sucks, especially for the consumer. Because again, this wasn't, even though they probably will put out some statement later saying we're doing this so our products can be the best they can for the consumer because it's a very necessary move, blah blah blah, PR statement, generic stuff.
Nope, they're just gonna promote their new fight stick instead.
Yeah, that is actually what I did recently. That's pretty funny. But no, again, it's just, it sucks for everybody because, again, you're not gonna, when you don't have as many options, like, hey, sometimes digital is cheaper, like, you know, Steam summer sales and stuff. But I'd argue a lot of that is just because there's multiple options that have to compete with each other. This is letting Sony just have a monopoly on their market, and it's gonna be terrible for the consumer. And I'd say the only way that this is really going to be properly ever reversed, which I doubt will happen, is if enough people vote with their wallets, and especially when the PS6 probably comes out and it's probably all digital, just don't be the cattle that they see you as and buy into it. Especially as well with like GTA 6. I am not buying GTA 6 day one when it's $80, $100 if you want the actual full experience, and it's a code in the box as well.
That's kind of dystopian in a way. Like, if you think about it, like, you know the fiction of like future cyberpunk where you buy like that people buy food and they don't actually buy like a food of something. It's just like a fake
holographic
thing in a canister.
Meatloaf.
Yeah, holographic meatloaf. Yes.
It's like what fucking Domino's was tweeting about, of like, we sold
the digital
like,
pizza.
We sold holographic pizzas. Like, it truly is insane when you put it into like the idea of like any other like industry. It's like, okay, like let's say that this happened to Domino's. Okay, Domino's, we're gonna be selling like digital codes for pizza. Like, are you insane?
Another thing I want to talk about before a guy gets to his full closing thoughts with like corporatism as well, I feel like it's kind of ironic because like I mentioned GTA 6 and it going all digital, and like, dude, I feel like multiple of the past GTA games have like quite literally had that type of greed like mocked. They mocked that type of stuff in their older games, but now it's like they're a lot bigger and now they're spending billions to make this one single game. So yeah, now they're on the same level of greediness that their past villains probably fucking had.
No, literally. The irony, man. I swear. But yeah, that goes into my closing thoughts. I have to say this first and foremost. I do not think digital games or owning digital games, well, sorry, quotation marks, owning digital games, is inherently a bad thing. Like we said, it is cheap. It is something that is accessible to people. I love Steam. I play most of my games on PC, and those are all digital games. They are super fun. They are super accessible. I'm all down for it. But also, as a gamer, I do have to say, I like my stuff physical. Especially with the new laws being passed about digital games being something you do not own. You are buying a license to play it. That is just something that a little concerns me. I am very much a person who believes in if I buy it, I own it. So stuff like that just kind of scares me, especially for the future of what exactly can we own. But that's a different discussion.
Yeah,
Digital
you will own
games-
nothing and be happy.
Keep working, cog. You're in the machine, man. But it is a little dystopian, and the reason why we've been harping on Sony so much is because this is confirmed information. We still don't know if Xbox is going to be doing this, but the rumors are, as of recording, the rumors have suggested that they will be following a similar route of digital only. It really disappoints me. I'm someone who is very much supportive of the finding of lost media, or basically how to put this, trying to preserve art in the most valid way, in the most customary way possible. And for video games, that's just really hard to do, just because there's something that can go so out of date, and because of how digital centric we are nowadays, it's really hard to make sure that we have these physical copies to where we can go back to it at any point. And the idea of someone taking control of what I can play and when I can play it is something it yucks me. It yucky, ew, nasty, yuck. I really want physical games to be a mainstay, which unfortunately they aren't. I buy most of my games physical, even if initially they are a lot of times the more expensive thing to do. I just like owning my games. I like having the case. The case looks good. There are people whose entire jobs are to write the paragraphs on the back of the box to make sure it looks good. Those are whole jobs. I think that's cool. People put a lot of effort into this kind of stuff because they want it to be appealing, but they also want it to be unique and worth your purchase. Yes, I understand the production cost could be expensive sometimes, and yes, it is a big strain, especially if you're an indie developer trying to get your games out there. Like I mentioned earlier, Hades 2 is much more expensive physically than it is digitally, but it is just a matter of fact. The fact that Hades 2 is physical means it's going to be preserved no matter what. It's always going to be out there. Even if the digital version is not on stores, it's going to be there forever. Yes, it's more expensive, which sucks, but it's there at least. It's something that you have access to in some way, shape, or form right now. So, if anything, let this video just be a reminder of what exactly you as a gamer and what you as a person have access to in terms of your property and just what you're able to do with said property. I don't know what the future holds for us. No one can determine that, obviously. It's something that we think about every day, and yet it keeps changing in ways that we aren't expecting. But it is something we need to consider for the future. I hate this current direction that gaming is going into. I think this is one of the biggest L's that gaming has taken in the past couple of years in terms of modern gaming. A huge step back, in my opinion, for what is often regarded as an art form, up there with movies and books, especially in the modern era. We have entire game shows dedicated to the celebration of this art form. So the idea of this art form, this medium, being, I would say, degraded compared to other forms of media is just disgusting to me. I hate using that word, but it is just something that I have to cringe at and just scoff at every time I think about it. But ending it on a bleak note, unfortunately, we do have to end the video. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, please hit that like and subscribe button, and comment down below what your thoughts are on this whole situation. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to have a dialogue with you. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Fetch Quest podcast. This has been our episode on Sony's switch to digital games. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye!
Goodbye.
Bye bye.